checks and balances. What do you think would happen if our government could pass whatever laws they wanted? What if the president decided to double the taxes people had to pay? Or if our judges decided to put anyone who littered in jail? Or what if the government decided to make school 6 days a week instead of 5? Do you think there might be a lot of frustrated people? Fortunately, in the late 1700s, the Constitution of the United States was written to prevent that from happening. The Constitution is a list of rules and laws that helps the government and the citizens of the United States know what they can and cannot do. The Constitution helps all of us know how our nation should run or be governed. The Constitution organizes our government into 3 separate branches or groups. Those branches are called legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative branch is made up of 2 parts. The first part is called the House of Representatives. The second part is called the Senate. Together, these 2 groups are called Congress. The Senate and the House of Representatives make laws for the United States. Each state in the United States gets 2 senators. People that live in each state vote on who they want to be their senators. There are 100 senators, 2 from every state. The House of Representatives is currently made up of 435 men and women called congressmen. The number of congressmen per state is based on the population of each state. The bigger the population, the more congressmen that state gets. Think of our congressmen and senators like the officers at your school. Even though your school might have 1,000 kids in it, you and your classmates vote on just a few kids to represent all the students at your school. Well, our senators and representatives represent you and the people in your state. Now, let's take a look at who makes up the executive branch and the jobs that they have. The executive branch is made up of the President of the United States, the Vice President, and the Cabinet. You already know who the President and Vice President are, but you might not be familiar with the Cabinet. The Cabinet is made up of people who give advice to the President. If you were assigned a big project at school, it might feel really overwhelming. But if your teacher let you pick some classmates to help you, it would make your job a whole lot easier. Maybe you'd pick a classmate that is a good artist and another who is a great writer. Another student you choose might be good at research, while another is great at public speaking. Each of these students have different talents and expertise that will help you get your project done. That's exactly what the Cabinet does for the President of the United States. Being the President is a very big job, and since he or she is not an expert in everything, the President chooses different experts to help him or her with his job. The President might choose someone from the military to be over defending our country. Another person who is an expert in the medical field is chosen to be over the health of our country. This person's job would include giving the President advice on how to keep people safe if there was a pandemic. The President also has people who help him write speeches, as well as people that keep him informed about things that are happening in the country and the rest of the world. If the President is ever not able to do his or her job, the Vice President would step in and take over as President. One of the President's jobs is to approve the laws that are passed by the legislative branch or Congress. Remember, that's the branch that makes the laws. The President can decide to veto those laws. That means he can vote no to the laws that Congress makes if he doesn't think they are what is best for the country. The President also has the power to approve the laws. Now, let's look at the judicial branch. This branch is made up of 9 judges who make up the Supreme Court. These judges oversee the United States court system. Every state has many judges and courts, but the Supreme Court is the highest of them all. In fact, another word for supreme is first. So the Supreme Court is the highest-ranking court in the United States. The 9 judges make sure that any new laws or existing laws agree with the Constitution. These 3 branches of government check on each other to make sure there is always balance between them, and that one of the branches doesn't have more power than the others. The system that they use to check on each other is called checks and balances. Checks and balances make sure that our laws are fair and that they are guided by the rules in our Constitution. So, how do checks and balances keep things fair? Well, even though Congress or the legislative branch makes the laws, those laws don't automatically become laws. The laws are discussed, debated, and finally voted on by Congress. If Congress decides to pass the bill, which is another word for law, the bill is then given to the president to look at. The president can then decide to veto the bill or pass it. That's how the executive branch, or the president, checks on the legislative branch or Congress. Sometimes a bill gets passed to the Supreme Court. The judges then look at the law and decide if it is constitutional. That means they decide if the law agrees with what our Constitution says. If the Supreme Court thinks the bill is unconstitutional, they will throw it out. That's one of the ways that the judicial branch, or the judges, checks on the legislative branch and the executive branch. Did you know that even the President of the United States gets checked on too? So how do checks and balances work with the executive branch of our government? If a president does something against the law, the House of Representatives can impeach that president. That means they can vote to have the president tried for a crime that they think he has committed. That is the first check of the president. It makes the president accountable for his actions, just like everyone else. Are you wondering if that has ever happened to a president before? The answer is yes! As of 2020, 3 presidents have been impeached, which means the House of Representatives accused them of crimes. Those presidents were Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. However, for a president to actually be removed from office, 75% of the Senate has to vote for him to be removed. Even though those 3 presidents were all impeached, none of them received enough votes to be removed from office. Another way that a president is checked on is when he or she chooses the member of the cabinet. The Senate helps with the process and approval of the cabinet members. That's kind of like your teacher approving the classmates that you choose to work on your project with. Instead of your choosing a bunch of your friends, she would make sure that the kids you chose had different talents and strengths that would help you complete your project. The Senate does the same thing when the president chooses his or her cabinet members. One of the powers a president has is to announce executive orders. For example, he may give an order that prevents people from other countries entering the United States. However, the Supreme Court can override his order, and Congress can pass a bill to block that order. That's one way that those 2 branches check on the president. To keep the Supreme Court or the judicial branch in check, Congress may remove judges through impeachment. The president can then choose a new judge to take their place. But the president must get approval from the Senate of the judge he chooses. In addition to all those checks on each branch of the government, the 10th Amendment in the Constitution says that each state and the people who live there can also perform checks on federal government and make sure that they are doing the right things to govern our nation. Checking on the government helps keep power between the 3 branches balanced. Most importantly, it prevents one branch from becoming too powerful. Checks and balances help maintain fairness and peace in America. Be sure to subscribe.